welcome to Abstract Essay, where ideas take shape, thoughts find depth, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guests. They are naturopathic doctor. They are specialized in hands-on healing focus on the face, head, neck, and spine. And no other than Dr. Dean Howell and Miss Rebecca.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome to Abstract Essay. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
My name is Dean Howell. I'm originally from Everett, Washington, just south of where Daniel is right now in Canada. I
Hmm.
went to uh, University of Washington and then Bastyr University to get my naturopathic medical degree in 1982. Then I opened private practice for a few years, and then I gave it up and started working outside the system and focusing more on healing rather than treating people, which is a business, treating people. Healing, well, it has to be a business, but it's more of a calling. And going in that direction, I ended up interacting and interfacing with my partner, Rebecca.
Hi, my name is
Yes.
Rebecca, and I come from Brooklyn, New York. And what got me into healing originally was that my mother contracted a tumor in her abdomen, and they told her she had 2 weeks to live. So I started doing a lot of research with
And how
things.
old were you?
Oh my God, I don't even remember. I was a teenager type, actually, even below that. But I did a lot of research and I kept her alive for about another 15 years. And I shrunk it to the size of a peanut. And if I had known what I know now, she probably would have lost the tumor altogether. But I didn't know that. It went from the size of a football to the size of, well, the pinky on your hand. It's just the very end of it, very tiny. And I realized that there's a lot more out there than what the standard AMA medical system or the allopathic world is telling you because they're allowed to only work within the template of what their particular allowances are.
She means standards of practice for
Yeah,
medical
standards of
care.
practice in medical
Yeah.
care. We're caring more about what's causing the issue and trying to get you to clean that up so your body can start healing itself and being the best you that you can be.
Very well said, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And Dr. Howell, can you walk us through each of these components and explain how they work together during the treatment session? The NCR as a combining deep muscle therapy and external cranial manipulation as well as the proprioceptive testing.
Sure. Well, first is that I was trained in massage and bone manipulation when I was in medical school, and our techniques were very much like a massage therapist or a chiropractor would use. And I found that those techniques didn't last. We could provide relief to people, and a week or two later, they needed more relief. And I remember how upset I was when after I graduated from medical school, spent all those years studying, and then I learned a treatment that was essentially temporary. So I had to determine what was really wrong. And what I realized is that it wasn't just to make someone's bones line up better so that they looked more symmetrical, because every time we did that, it would wear off and it would go back to that same pattern they had before treatment.
Mm.
You could call that reverting, right? They reverted every time. And what I wanted to do was to figure out how to make it stay. Well, one day I observed that when I pushed on this woman I was working on, before I began treatment, I kind of bumped her and she was kind of perched on her feet. So when I just kind of brushed against her, it made her lurch off to the side. How terrible that was, right? But then I went ahead and treated her, and I used my endonasal balloons, which means that we took small inflatable balloons about the size of a small finger, and we would slide them through the nostril into the top of the throat. And once it was in position and we blocked it off properly with our hands, if we used that blood pressure cuff bulb to inflate it, that movement would push the bones out. And when I pushed her bones out in a way that made her head a little bit more even and symmetrical, because most people's faces are crooked, if you look carefully and take a photo and draw lines through the corners of your eyes and through your ears and through your mouth, those lines are all crooked and things. And same with each side of your face. One can be bigger than the other. So when I moved her just right, when she stood up, she was more stable and it was harder to push her. And when that happened, when I saw her a few weeks later, she retained the treatment. And I realized I had the secret. So now we routinely do that in our hands on healing work when we need to complete the work and we want to make sure that the changes in the joints, whether it be the shoulders, the hips, the feet, the, the pelvis, or anywhere in the spine or the skull, if we want it to stay in that position and not just revert back to where they were before treatment, we have to stabilize them with the small balloons, moving part of the head outward to kind of like, I can crack my fingers, the knuckles. Well, we want to crack the head. And when we do that, the whole head structure shifts. And if it's more gravitationally stable, then you don't revert after treatment. We can accumulate those benefits. So the way that we decide which of the six
Mm-hmm.
passageways that we use inside the nose to slide the balloon into the top of the throat. See, there's an upper, a middle, and a lower passage in each nostril. So we have six different ways to push the inside of the head different ways because we're trying to get different joints in the skull to crack open so that connective tissue inside can shift the bones, and as we do that and we stabilize it, it can stay. So then people get long term relief from nasal breathing problems. It helps correct vision problems, balance problems, gets rid of neck problems. We treat problems with the brain like hyperactivity and attention deficit disorder. We even can change some hormonal problems if the pituitary gland is
Is
involved.
involved.
All of these things interrelate with having to release the skull and to make the overall body more and more symmetrical and stable. And that's part of what we do.
And it's not a matter of anybody just getting a balloon and doing that, because you have to find the right passage, because the right passage will move the correct cranial bones out so they're no longer impinging on nerves or suppressing craniosacral fluids or, arteries or veins, which might, constrict you and thereby prohibit nutrition and oxygen from getting to the brain. And the skull and the spinal cord is really the brain's home. So we're basically affecting the whole brain and the whole function of your body, because the brain is what controls your entire system. It controls you.
So the testing itself can be
Hmm.
performed while someone's standing, and we actually just
Or laying
push our
down.
standing subject a little bit to the left and the right, and push on different parts of the body and to see how they're stable. And that allows us to decide which level or levels to use those small balloons. And so this is an essential structural part of getting the body to recover from accidents and other kinds of trauma. Otherwise, those conditions just go on and on and on, and you have a chronic
Hmm.
condition that you'll have the same treatment done,
Pretty much as long as
massage
you
on your
live.
back or putting your neck back in place. You'll do it for 20, 30, 40 years
Hmm.
unless somebody intervenes. And the way I've just mentioned is, to me, the best intervention I've ever seen.
Yep.
How do you determine the number of series of patients needs and what happens during the
No.
4-day cycle?
Well, that's what we can't know in advance because you or anyone else that we see has a specific kind of history. And in a sense, what we're releasing when we work on people is their history. And the more times you've been hit,
The deeper it is and
the
the longer
longer
it's
it
going to
takes
take.
because we'll release one pattern or even two in a treatment,
Oh, sometimes.
and then things will unwind and they'll change, and then different places will lock up in this complex structure that our bodies are. And then it's time to release it again. We do more body work. We use the intranasal balloons and release it again. That's why, for many years, I've tried to cluster the treatments together, doing 3, 4, or even 5 days in a row,
Hmm.
each time releasing them because they'll change and we'll release, we change, we release, it keeps changing. And so uh, instead of you having to move to my town to see me every Friday, which would be what would happen if, with the way that chiropractors and massage therapists and physical therapists and even osteopaths work, with my work, you'd come to see me wherever I am because it's been difficult for me to teach this to anybody. And you see me and do a cluster of treatments and then see me again later. And because of the superior design of the therapy, you're going to be okay taking a break in between. I used to go to Switzerland twice a year, and the people were still getting better, even with their treatments, 6 months apart and then 4 days of treatment.
I also want to mention that we have had a few people who have come in with pretty traumatic injuries, including one guy who was deaf. And quite frankly, by the end of the fourth treatment, the first group he'd ever done, his hearing came back. We've had that happen too. And it depends on how willing your mind and your body is willing to work with the letting go process and healing itself or not. So it really is a very, very individual question, which we really do not have the answer to.
Yes, indeed. Totally interesting. And as as a member of your advocacy, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
What are your short term and long term goals? Is that
Well, uh, what we're trying to develop right now in the short term is enough cash flow to set up things for our long term goals. What we've been working on for a number of years is an intentional community where we live, where we can also have healing services going
facilities and
on.
services?
So well, right now, actually, for the last 30 years, I've been traveling to a few different locations every month, and they've been across the country. I used to regularly go to England and Switzerland as well, so I was always traveling. So I love doing the healing work, and we're only in our 70s. We're not really old yet, so still ambitiously working. So we want to get a healing center built up in Washington State, in north central Washington, where we live, outside a small town. And then people can come and stay in the property, and then they can get their treatments as well. So that's what I would like to do. Oh, I don't know, for the next 30 years or so. That's what
That
I've
sounds
been
good.
working towards anyway.
Definitely. For the next 30 years, you will
Why
help
not?
more people to heal their
Well, my
That's the
suffering.
idea.
grandfather died at 114,
Oh, wow.
literally. And he checked himself into a hospital and just decided he wanted to go. So he stopped eating and stopped doing anything and just put himself to sleep, per se. So you don't know. If you take care of your vehicle, you don't know how long you can stay here because, the problem with it is that most people abuse themselves. They do drugs, EMFs, environmental pollutions,
Carbohydrates.
carbohydrates. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that they do that accelerate the biological, biochemistry aging. Because you see, chronological, how long you've been here is not really the issue. It's really how much biological, biochemical breakdown that you have going on in your system. That's what it really is that ages you and kills you. In fact,
If you've never heard of Edgar
I was
Casey,
about to say
he
that,
was
yes.
called the sleeping prophet in the 1930s and 1940s. Well, we were going back and reading through some of his notes because he all of his sessions he would go into trance and go to a place he called the Akashic Library and read about. He would open a big book and read about the subject of his meditation that day,
Hmm.
and he would say whatever he read in the book out loud, and the transcriptionists would write it all down, and they've compiled that in a big library.
But what he said
Anyhow,
was,
so at one point, we were reading about something else, and he said, and of course, aging is a program that you choose to accept, and it's not required that you maintain it like a contract. And it's like, what? You don't have to age, you have to accept the idea of aging. So, since that day, my body's been getting younger.
well, it's true. He actually, if you look at pictures of him from years ago, he's got white hair, okay?
The old
He
pictures.
doesn't have white hair anymore. It's brown and blonde now, which he used to have when he was a youth. And it's not from dyeing it. He takes care of himself. He does the right nutrition, the right structural, keeping away from EMFs and pollution, etc., things like that. And I'm doing the same thing. That my hair is not quite there yet, but I am getting my natural color back. It's still a bit gray, but I'm a little bit slower on this protocol than he is, but I'm doing it too. He used to have varicose veins all over his legs. His legs were purple and black, and now they're not. Now they're flesh colored. So he is literally reversing the biological and chemical damage that was done during his lifetime. And that's what we all have to do.
So, what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be naturopathic doctors?
Well, to become a naturopathic doctor, nowadays you would have to have a bachelor's degree or nearly have a bachelor's degree from a university that would be accepted by the medical schools. And
So it's basically more
there
allopathic than it used to be.
well, but there's two naturopathic medical schools in Canada, and there's I don't know, I think maybe five now in the United States, and and after you finish that, you nowadays I think they're primarily trained in functional medicine and somewhat in homeopathy, and they use some acupuncture things, and that's a good start. The information's very good, but they don't teach them about avoidance of carbohydrates and
Parasite
very
cleansing, liver
aggressive treatment
cleansing,
of
kidney cleansing, pancreatic cleansing. They don't teach any of those things.
yeah,
They basically go by the outline of regular MDs,
and the
which is kind of sad.
well it's more like their concepts aren't really designed to help heal. So you'll have to talk with old radicals like us.
I don't
to,
like the word
to,
old, thank you.
no,
Old like
that's how
us.
you can start making the real changes that you really need.
Well,
But the degrees and the licenses that are associated with them can give you a lot of power, and that can be useful. So it's not all bad, but and the sciences are well, we use the same sciences,
of
but the
course,
difference is that the methods that we will embrace are not the ones that they're embracing, and they're not being embraced by the medical insurance industry
because
either.
their goals are to maintain you and treat you. Our goals are to get you to see where you can be, where your body can heal itself and stop it. See, by the way, compared to my grandfather's age, I'm a baby, so
So,
that's
but
cool.
have you ever wondered why they call it healthcare or healthcare maintenance? Don't you think that if you really had the opportunity that you would buy healing insurance instead? But what? they'll actually do is if you do the kinds of therapies that would make you better long term so that you wouldn't need them, they won't pay for those. They want you to pay for those outside of the system. I stopped taking insurance in 1991 for payments for my treatments because they wouldn't approve the ones that these people really needed. They said, well, if someone came in for headaches, unless each treatment I did was directly trying to treat a headache, they would say that it was an unnecessary procedure, even if it was going to be long-term preventative. So I discontinued that, and then I started really seeking out how to heal people. You know, it was time for me to change so I could embrace a better world in the future.
Mm.
We deserve healing. We don't deserve treatment.
So, Dr. Dean and Miss Rebecca, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast, Law 101 and mental health 101, love letters in fourth season, and Movie 101 review and Music 101 in its fourth season too, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its
Wow,
first
you're really
season.
busy.
Well, it's quite
Yes,
accomplished, you know. It's
busy,
quite
busy
accomplished.
indeed. Please do listen to them wherever you listen your podcasts. So, Dr. Dean and Miss Rebecca, what do you think the future of naturopathic?
It really depends. And, well, you want us to be honest and frank. So it depends on the politics because basically the politics has been to gear toward, big pharma and stuff like that because that's who's paying the bills. That's real. Deep state pays the bills. They do what they want them to. And as long as they do that, doing things naturally will not do too well unless the powers that be, the elites, decide that they want to fund healing stuff and make money off of that instead. So it really depends on what they consider their next financial flow.
Okay.
And Mr. Dean or Dr. Dean, what's the future
Well,
of naturopathic?
I hope it's growing.
well, naturopathic, I think, has lost its way because it's not really focusing on healing and treating the cause.
Not
One of my
anymore.
favorite teachers said you have to treat the cause behind the cause behind the cause to accomplish healing. And if any kind of healthcare practitioner is too simple in their approach, they're not getting deep enough to trigger the kind of healing that you deserve. So what we want to do, you know, is not I mean, did you know that Bayer aspirin, for instance, is allowed to legally say that aspirin cures a headache? And we know that that's the first level, right? You have a headache pain, take an aspirin, it goes away. 4 hours later, you have a headache, you take another aspirin, and 4 hours later, it goes away. And at one level, they can legally say that that is each time, you know, healing, a headache. Well, after that, then you start looking at spinal alignment, and you can find out that most every time, by the time you've developed a headache, your spine vertebrae, especially in the upper neck, are
Hmm.
out of place. Okay, now that's a second level of headache. Okay, well, what's triggering that vertebrae to go out of place? Well, now we're at a third level, and now
Liver function.
now we're in a much more complicated position because sometimes it's biochemistry,
Hmm.
sometimes it's as simple as changing the diet,
Hmm.
and other times it's that we need to do more complex things like melting adhesions and scars in the neck in order to change the head and neck so that that vertebrae doesn't have to keep going into that painful position to stabilize the structures of your body. So
Right.
all of those are different ways to approach headache. And right now, your healthcare practitioners, especially if they're being paid by the insurance industry, isn't going to be able to offer you even half of that. You deserve better. And the naturopathic concepts, that's where it's at. And then they've been bought off with insurance money so that they now can look at lab tests and tell you what supplements to take instead of assessing you to figure out how to heal you. I think that soon there's going to be a general revolution in medicine, and that people with these kinds of skills to help you heal will take the forefront.
Eventually.
And I think that the best situated to become those kind of people will be the naturopathic doctors.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy and whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Thank you. That would be wonderful.
So, where do people can reach you, Dr. Dean?
Yes. So, first off, if you send an email to us at info@Dr. Dean Howell, and that means that's my website as well, DrDeanHowell.com. That's our hands-on healing site that the title page is being displayed by Daniel here. But if you send us an email, we'll even send you some compiled video of healing techniques, and then we have newsletters that we share information, and then we also have a membership association, and we can help you more once you're a member, because we have problems with the Federal Communications Commission and the FDA. You can't tell everything online anymore.
Unless you have a private membership association, which is what we have. And then we can talk to you frankly and tell you what the cause is behind the cause, so you know how to address it.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, people, let's support Miss Rebecca and Dr. Dean Howell, because if you support them, for sure, more and more empowering naturopathic healing to come. More to come, people. See you soon.